Hi, my name is Alessandro Angelosi and that's a video tutorial coming from cgcookie.com for MaxCookie. This time I'm back on the Waterfall project we started some weeks ago, and we have to finalize the first version we are doing using Particle Flow and Krakatoa and FumeFX, and then I'd like to create a more realistic and more complex version using Realflow. And in the future, if we have the possibility, we'll prepare a version with using Naiad 2. So first of all, I like to make a little bit more complex situation there inside the scene and the environment, and then I can work a little bit on the tuning for the particles. So you see that there we have this rock, and I like to change it a little bit. So I like to put it the particle system there, and then I like to go there and we'll try to prepare something like an obstacle, a rock in front of the water, something like that, and maybe a little bit more little. So I like because we'll have a collision at the beginning. So let's see what happened. Okay, we have to move a little bit upper this one, and we have to set the first collision there. We have the collision with a plane 002, that's this one. We have no animation and we have both collision. Let's see now, and you see that we have obviously the collision, but we have to fix there because let's do it with less particles. So let's go in the particle system, and let's say that in viewport we have just 0.5%, 0.5%. Okay, and we have maybe more speed. So let's go there. Okay, we need more speed, so let's go for 90, 110, 120, okay, and maybe 30 for the speed up, and let's see what happened there. Okay, so to have no particles there, we can maybe use, for example, another mesh, or we can try to have a cell modifier there. So let's go to select shell and let's go for inner, and let's see if it can help. Let's go for 1.5 meters. Okay, you see that we are creating something really strange there, so maybe it's better to find another way, and we can try extruding. This way I think it can work. Obviously it will be not so precise because there we have not the terrain mesh, but we have something that can be useful for our simulation. Okay, let's close. Okay, now we have problem with the face, So undo. You have a problem with the undo. I try to fix it. I have some kind of problem with the undo, so I have to restart the fixes I was doing, and we can think to do something new. Let's go there, and using the control key we can make the selection like this one, and with the soft selection I can try to create. I have still problem with the undo. I have to restart 3ds Max, so please wait. Okay, so due to the problem we had with the undo, I prepared a really simple mesh, as you see, just to have it at and not the old one. So now we can move. Let's remove the edges faces. Now we can move the particle emitter. We can have it there. Let's see from the other point of view. Okay, something like that. Maybe we can now have it a little bit bigger. Okay, and we have to change the particle system there. First of all, let's say that in viewport we have 0.5%, and the first collision is with line, and the second one is with plane 1, and the third one is with plane 1. Okay, so let's have no keep apart for the moment, and save, and let's see what happened. Okay, let's have more speed. Let's go for 100, 120. Okay, back and there, let's say that we can have maybe 10 collision, because we have more possibility to have collision over it. Let's say that we have collision on both faces. Okay, so that's our new. I'd like to see we have particles going inside. So let's try to have, for example, more power to the speed. Okay, and we can have more gravity. Let's say 150, 1050, sorry. Let's try with more, 100, 1800. So you see that the particles are falling there in a better way. Okay, let's rotate. We have some particles going inside, but it's not important for the moment. And let's go back there. We have also the particles spraying there, you see. Okay, I like to try to have more gravity, still more gravity. Let's try 2100. Okay, so you see that the particles are falling in a better way there. Okay, so save again the project, and we have a better simulation. So we have a little bit of chaos there, and let's see how to play with the particles there. We have the avoid there, but we can stop for the moment to be faster. So we have the particles there, we have the chaos, and I like to have a little bit more chaos. So let's create again a really simple particle system as we done past time. So we go for a super spray, and let's set to off the waterfall. So there, that's our particle system. We have to change a little bit the parameters. Let's go for 100%. And particle generation, let's say that we have 1 meters for the speed, and we have the particles until 500, and the display is 500. Okay, a little bit less speed. Okay, let's link to that wind. Okay, that's the noise, and let's play with another wind. So let's go there, and let's go for another wind. So we have to set to off both. Let's remove it, and let's link to this one. Okay, pick the wind, the speed is 0, and we have a little bit of turbulence, and we have a little turbulence. Let's go for 001. The scale is not the best. So we have not so much way to have a really interesting noise. This one can be not bad. Okay, let's try to use it. So back inside Waterfall particle system, and we have to add it as a force. There we are using just this one. Let's remove this one and add the new wind we set, and let's see what happens. Okay, you see that we have a more chaotic animation. Okay, so back and save the scene. So we have the basic setup now to work with Krakatoa. I think that we don't need anything more to work with to prepare a better simulation, and I'm not using the keep apart to be faster, but if you want to have a more precise simulation, you can use it. Obviously we'll use a lot of particles, so it can become really slow using the keep apart, sorry. So let's set to off there, and we have to work with the look, And let's go out there. We have this slide, we can remove it. I like to work with a more precise lighting. Let's go for target direct there, and this one will be our sun. Sorry, move. Okay, and there we have to change the scaling there. Let's say 5 meters, and it must be bigger, so let's go for 10 meters. We have also the overshoot, and we have the shadows. Save, and we have to play a little bit with Krakatoa. And obviously, to work with Krakatoa, we need more particles. Let's go inside the rendering there, and let's see what we have to do with the old setup we prepared. Okay, you see that there we have interesting stuffs. We need for sure maybe more bigger noise there. So we need to change how the water will move. And we saw that the usual wind we are using is not working so good. So let's try to have a better scaling for it. So I just created again the sorry, the super surprise, so we can play with another level of noise. And I create a new wind. Okay, but before we need to have a different scale, so we go in preferences, and there inside spinner we say position 5 decimals. Okay, now we can try with an high level of turbulence. Let's think about maybe 8 for the frequency and 0.005 for the scaling. And let's link, let's bind to the space warp, and you see that's our noise actually. And now we can try to add this one to the water, so we can set to on there, and we have to add another force, and we can add the second water there, wind, sorry, and set to on. And you see that we have more chaos, but I have to see how it works, because it seems really high. Let's remove this one, and let's render. So we have to decide if I can use it in this order. It seems not bad, but maybe it must be a little bit less with less energy. So maybe it's better to go there, remove this one, add a new force, and have just this one. So add, and say maybe 350. Okay, and then we can add this force also to the falling water there. So we can copy this one with the right mouse button, and there paste with the right mouse button, and you see that we have the chaos also on the water that is falling. So let's go, for example, there, and let's render a frame. So we can see if the basic dynamic we are trying to simulate can be okay, or we have to change something. It seems not bad. I'd like to add also a little bit of dragging. So let's save and let's add the drag force. The drag force will be until 500, and we give it to the particles that are falling. So there we need another force there, so force, and there we have by the least the drag, and let's see what happened. So you see that the particles, let's see how it works. If we have no drag, you see that we have more going away the particles. In this way we have the particles that try to stay hold together, but I like to see a frame again. It is preparing the particles. Okay, so let's go there, save, and let's work a little bit in Krakatoa. Okay, actually we have the motion blur just with 2 segments. Let's remove it so we can play just with the particles. We have a really high emission there, and that's the color. For the moment let's go for something like that for the color, and we have no emission. Let's render. It will be fast because we are using just the particles we just created. And let's go back there. Okay, now I'd like to see what happens if we have an higher density, and I'm using the density exponent there. Let's see with a light a little bit with less power, 1.35. Okay, and let's go there, and let's say that we have an override emission but it's lower, I mean darker. Okay, so we have a little bit of water coloring there. Let's see with a little bit more density, exponent set to 2 is a little bit too high. Let's go to 1 and let's use 15. Okay, it seems not bad. Let's use the motion blur with a higher value. Let's go for 4, and there we can try with 12. Okay, it is not bad actually. Then okay, so I'd like to see when we have more particles inside the scene, when we have the particles there that has collision, what happen. So we can see if we need to change a little bit the particle flow setup, or we can go with this version, and then we can start playing with the FumeFX setup. I stopped the recording because it is a little bit slow to arrive at the frame 115. Okay, that's the result. So I'd like to see what we can do inside the particle system. So we have a spawning when we have the collision with 3 offsprings and that's okay. Then we have the various stuffs there, and then there the collision. We have 3 collision. Let's say maybe we have just 1 collision, and we have some collision there too. So let's say that we have 1 collision and 1 collision. We have distance, so that's okay. Let's say that the magnitude is 50, and we have some variation, and that's okay. So you see we have less chaos there. Okay, and let's try to have also maybe less possibility to have the reflection of the particle. So just some particles will go with a collision. Okay, and there let's try to have a little bit more dragging. Okay, let's see, for example, there what happened. And then we try also when the particles are falling down and colliding with the ground. Okay, we have more particles staying all together, and maybe we can just add some more stuffs as rocks or something like that, where we have particles, and we can maybe also let's prepare a camera with this point of view. Let's go back to the perspective, and let's go near and there. I'd like to add something there. Let's close. And we have the splash there. Let's see what we have in rendering there. We should add more effects to the particles, but it will be useful to have, for example, the box 2 to add more detail and more fluid-like movement to the particles. But you see, that's the actual setup. I'd like to try to have this mesh as a matte. So sorry. Let's go there, and this one must be renamed. Okay. And in Krakatoa, inside the meta objects, we can set this one there and enable, save, and let's see if everything works fine. And you see the mesh inside there. Okay, I'd like maybe to add some detail there to have more collision. This one maybe can be moved. So you see we should have more spray effects there. Let's try render. And we'll try to see also with more particles what we can obtain. Okay, you see that we have more spray effects over there, and then there we have more stable things. But we can, for example, add a little bit of rock detail there. Let's think about, for example, there, let's say this area. And you see I'm just creating some strange rock there. So we have some splashes also on this area. And we can maybe add some detail also there. Let's see how it looks. And now we try to have more particles. Then this one will be ready, so we can move to have a layer done using Particle Flow, FumeFX, just to give a little bit more detail to the rendering. Let's wait. Okay, it seems a little bit more interesting because we have the collision there and something maybe also there on this area. So now we can close there and let's go to the particle flow source, and we'll say to use, we are using 1 million particles, and we'll try for 5 millions. So first of all, I try, for example, there, and if it's too much slow, I stop the recording so we can see the result as soon as it will be ready, but for the moment I think it will be not so slow. Okay, so that's the result using 5 million particles. You see that there the detail are higher and the quality is better. Maybe there we have too much spray going away, but let's see how it looks when we have the collision also on the ground. Maybe it is not bad. So let's render, and I stop the recording too. It is too much slow to arrive to the right frame, so it's better to render the entire clip. I think that for our testing purpose we can go for 2 million particles. Okay, so we have our simulation there, and we need to add a little bit of FumeFX stuffs over it, and just to give a more interesting look, but really just really low mixed effects, nothing so much. So actually we have a lot of particles, but obviously FumeFX cannot use so huge particles. And if you like to add the mist, let's say we need to use a low particle number, and we have to simulate there. Let's go for particles. Sorry, FumeFX. Okay, and we have there on the top, we can see where we have to put the FumeFX, and let's say something like that. Nothing so big. Okay, then we have to say to use the particles, so we have to add a FumeFX helper, and we have to use the particle flow source, and let's pick the particle flow. Now let's see what happened there. We have to change the scale. You see that the radius is really low. Okay, maybe we can use less particles, but we have to test it. So for the moment, let's say that we try to use this amount of particles, and then let's pick the FumeFX. And we have to choose the object there. Okay, then inside the simulation, let's go in the right folder, and I use this one, and let's say water, just to have a name that can be clear. And the grid is really low, so let's see the scaling, and let's go to have really, let's try 10 centimeters. Obviously for the final version it must be more little. And let's go back there, and let's remove the grid. And I like to see what happens if we try to simulate. But obviously before I have to say that we like to simulate just the smoke and not the fuel. So let's see what happens. You see that it's really a lot visible. Okay, cancel. Okay, let's go there inside the property, and I like to say that we are creating less smoke. So there is not so much space there, but you know that inside the particle source parameter, the last one is the smoke amount. And I like to try, you have 2, we try with 0.5, and let's try again. We have still a lot of smoke. Let's try to see also inside the rendering to have less density there. So let's close fire, and that's the opacity. Let's try with 0.5, 0.01. So really low opacity, just to see. Okay, and let's go a little bit there. We have the turbulence scale set to 2.0, but I like to have more vorticity, and we can have a turbulence scaling about, let's say, maybe 60 centimeters with 4 for the detail, and not so fast, so 15 frames. And let's say that the force is 10 centimeters. So you see that actually it is more similar to smoke. I'd like just to simulate some dust. Maybe we have to create less turbulence, but we have to check it. So I'd like just to see some frames. Then we can save the scene, and in part 3 we'll finalize the mist layer, and we'll work on the final comp to obtain the final clip, and we'll see the final project. Okay, it seems a little bit better than before. Okay, let's stop and close. So we have the basic setup, so we can go back, and we are ready to continue working on the FumeFX. So now I render a preview for the Krakatoa layer, so you can see it rendered. And so that's all for the moment, and we'll finalize the project on part 3. So thanks again, and we'll see you really soon.